we? Say it. Where are we? Do you know what is this? Where is this? No. This is ocean, Pacific Ocean. And this is sand. Silicon. They make computer out of this. This is source of computer, silicon. This is Los Angeles. Hey, I want you to say Los Angeles.
If a British ethologist and a renowned atheist, Richard Dawkins, is considered by many as Darwin's Rottweiler, then it is safe to say that Michael Brent Shermer is his American Staffordshire Terrier. The columnist for the journal Scientific American modestly acknowledges that he was born and raised a convinced Christian. During his time as a college student, he renounced his faith and now considers himself as an agnostic atheist and a strong supporter of the philosophy of humanism. A well-known mythbuster and exorcist of religious obscurantism, founder of both the Skeptics Society and Skeptic magazine. With professional enthusiasm, he answered our call and invited us to his office of Skeptics magazine located in Los Angeles, mecca of counterculture of the 1960s.
I don't believe in God in any way, any kind of gods at all. What would it take for me to believe in God? Well, a large cash deposit in a Swiss bank account under my name in unmarked bills. 10 million will do it. All religions do that, or almost all. And that's the basis of all religious beliefs. And what I'm more interested in than the specific cultural differences or the sort of anthropology of religion, this culture believes that kind of God, this one believes this kind of God. I'd like to know why we would believe in any gods at all. What would be the reason for that? Why is that there? And of course, the reason we're addressing Islam is because it's the elephant in the room. You know, and since 9/11, we can't help but want to talk about it because, for obvious reasons, this is a threat to our liberties and freedoms of religions or from religions. So that's why we address it. There's a lot of myths about Islam, just like there are about Christianity and Judaism. I'm vaguely familiar with the 19 thing, but as an example of patternicity, when you're out driving around today, just look at license plate numbers and start paying attention to where you find 19 or 9 or 1 or 1 and 9 close to each other or adjacent to each other. Take a look at some addresses, and before you know it, you'll find 19 all over the place. Wow. What does it mean? Nothing.
Such deep conviction and preconceived notions of the famous skeptic, who is more than used to triumphantly expose his dull-witted religious opponents, made us even more eager to continue our discussion in a prompt scientific manner. We wanted to better understand the reason behind this unambiguous and reluctant point of view.
Michael, I appreciate your work, and I was following Skeptic maybe for more than a decade, and also before you, I had contacted Carl Sagan in 1992 when I was doing philosophy. And I wrote a thesis on his work, not on his work, basically on 19. And I had a short 2-round discussion with him. And later with Martin Garner, we had a little communication, cranky old man. Mm-hmm. I saw his letter here. Mm-hmm. It is typed exactly the same, mm-hmm, with typewriter and corrected with hand. Now, I want to come that I would little bit give some information. And I don't expect really a studied refutation to it. But I know what will be your reflexes. Your reflexes is this numerology, this pattern seeking, mm-hmm, and selective and stuff. But I will give you some example. I do believe that will make you think, and later you will say, okay, I need to study this my reflexive refutation will not work. I am going to discuss with you. I have some questions and stuff, or it may really change your whole. I will call it dogmas. I do believe there are certain dogmas, because a moment ago when the person asked, is there any way God could be proven to you? You came up with really non-falsifiable stuff. You claim that if it is showing all the miraculous event, we can do the miracles, and we will be capable of doing most of the things, even cosmological events we can create. Therefore, it seems you didn't leave any room for God, even there is God to prove.
Well, but what? See, as soon as you say there's like some supernatural force, by which I presume you mean God is a supernatural agent, right? Not part of the natural world. Would that be a fair description?
That's good.
Yeah. So, but at some point, we can't really know the supernatural. There is no such thing as a supernatural. There's just the natural and things we can't explain. So the moment God reaches into our universe in some way and interacts, that has to be measurable in some way, right?
Yeah.
So that's not supernatural, that's natural.
Using the so-called classical atheist argument, Shermer utilized a long-trusted method in an attempt to equalize several contemporary cosmological views with the notion of God, without realizing that before him was a scientist rather than an irrational religious spiritualist.
I think that in a multiverse scenario where there's lots of different universes with lots of different laws of nature, any universe with laws of nature similar to ours are more likely to give rise to stars and planets and life forms that are intelligent enough to ask those kinds of questions. And those universes that don't have those laws of nature don't. So we are obviously one of the ones that it worked. That's one explanation.
Okay.
Another explanation is God did it, but that doesn't help us, because then we still want to know, well, where God came from. What's the creative force that brought God into existence?
Okay.
So we're at some point, if you take the infinite regress, we're always going to be left with another question.
I don't understand, but I see a big problem with that. Because when I see this box, the things in it contain, I call you polytheistic, in fact, because what I attribute to God, most of the things, you attribute to atoms, to quarks, to quantums, to molecules.
Okay,
if I say,
so then let me ask you what you mean by God before we go any further, because
God,
maybe we're talking about two different things.
Exactly. God is the designer, the creator of the universe, including the laws that govern the matter and energy. And
could it be an impersonal force? It doesn't have to be a personal.
Well, that's exactly the issue I want to say. You know, Dawkins, you read his books?
Of course.
Yeah, Dawkins, he's a smart guy, very smart guy. In his book, he gives an example of how he made simple computer program. Mm-hmm. He picks out certain qualities or certain actions, what to do, commands, and then these pixels are randomly moved around. They created some complex, a little bit kind of patterns. Mm-hmm. And here it is. If I can do it with simple program like this, and random will work its way from simplicity, can create complex structures.
But it's okay if we don't know the answer. Even if Dawkins is wrong, and Stephen Hawking is wrong, and all current cosmologists are wrong, that doesn't mean there's a God.
I have an answer. I will come to that answer. Right. I think you will be happy with that. Dawkins, Shermer, Dawkins in that time, he takes, as you also take granted for many things. He takes for granted the computer that he used. He takes for granted the commands, simple commands that he put into the programming. He takes for granted the pixels in the computer. He takes for granted the keyboard that he entered the data. He takes for granted his fingers, himself, his brain. He takes for granted time. He takes for granted space. He takes for granted the material, silicons and atoms in it, and the energy that runs. All these things is there. He ignores all these things and then says, here things happened. When matter, first the existence, ontological existence of matter is an issue. how things came out of nothing. The story told, which this story is in the Quran too, that universe, the whole earth and the whole space and the earth was one point. In the samawati wal ardi kanat ratqan, the whole space and the earth, they were one point. فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا, we separated them from each other. And in another verse says, وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ, we expanding them. Another verse says, we return back them, like folding the book, back them to the original state that we started. And this is closed universe. Now scientists says more evidence for open universe, I understand. But the Quran in so many verses regarding sciences, this is, we can discuss later if you want.
Did those who reject not see that the heavens and the earth were one mass and we tore them apart? That we made from the water everything that lives? Will they not acknowledge? Despite the change in the mode of discussion that turned from theological to scientific, which was all too familiar to Shermer, the conversation seemed to be psychologically uncomfortable for him. Without realizing, the notorious unveiler of fraudsters and charlatans ended up being cornered in the same position he often left his opponents in. Attacked by critical analysis and scientific data, Michael Shermer finally got the chance to taste his own medicine.
When I look at that and I find that the universe starting from out of nothingness, there was no matter, no energy, as infinitely dense, infinitely small point, suddenly, poof, the whole universe, these billions of galaxies with billions of stars came out. This is fairies of all tale. But we have evidence to believe this tale, correct? And multi-universe, even the craziest of all, you believe there are billions, infinite number of universes created every second, every possibilities. You are telling me the most amazing Alice in Wonderland, worse than that story, because you have some evidence. Therefore, get ready to be surprised. Some of the things you called mythology, this, if we have evidence that it is from creator, your creator, and if we have enough evidence that this is an extraordinary, not human, that Muhammad cannot ever write a book that has the knowledge of this time even beyond, and also has mathematical pattern in it. We'll talk about it. I will give you some examples. That mathematical pattern, that it is beyond human capacity to involve universal language of the universe, which is mathematics, with human language, which is arbitrary, in such a way, complicated way, that you cannot have a meaningful text with that pattern in it. I give you a few examples, and then I will let you preach me as much as you.
Okay, let me just stop here for a second. What are we doing here?
Discussing.
What is
okay.
this? This is not a document. You're not making a documentary here. He's giving a lecture.
Okay.
So what are we? Will you guys tell me what's really going on here?
Go ahead.
There was the other guy. Where did he go?
He did the interview.
Right. So that's a kind of a typical documentary. That's about a subject, and you have multiple people commenting, and you get my opinion. End of story. That's not what's going on here. This is something completely different. You're trying to convince me of something. You don't want my opinion. You're trying to convince me of something. You're not making a documentary. You're doing something else.
I am doing something else.
Tell me what you're doing.
You do debunking of charlatans, correct?
Yeah.
I love that. You go even trick them, which I love them. They deserve that. I am not doing that. I am here. I am bringing something to discussion. And I think that some of your claims are absolutely arrogant when you say there is no God. When you say there is no God...
No, I didn't say that. You asked me, he asked me, do you believe in God? And I say, I do not.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know that there's no God.
Okay. Okay, you personally.
But what's the point of any of this? What this is a different documentary or a film.
Yeah, this is different, yeah.
Okay, and are you financing this film, or what are we talking about here? Whose project is this?
I
Who's
love
that guy and who's you?
Gradual exchange of opinions transformed into a much heated argument. Despite his well-mannered etiquette, the vigorous defender of scientific truth was no longer able to maintain his nonchalance.
My suggestion,
Because I don't really, I'm not on board to just sit here and film a conversation for 2 hours where you lecture me.
Talk. Answer me. If this book, the Quran, the word...
And I presume you're a Muslim.
I am... well, the word Muslim, I think, has very wrong connotations.
Well, whatever. You follow the Islamic faith.
Islamic faith, I have problem with the word faith even.
Okay, whatever.
I don't call it, but I argue that this Quran is very underappreciated by Muslims. Muslims, when initially they followed that book, they became number one.
Why are you having this? You should be making a film with Islamic scholars, not me. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know anything about Islam. I don't study Islam.
You publish a cover story about Islam,
right?
And it is
by a professional scholar.
It was not professional because I found about evolution. Well, it is. There's nothing really in the Quran.
But even so. If you want to submit an article or a letter in response, we love publishing responses.
Well, we are talking right now. You can bash me, whatever I'm saying wrong, you can...
Okay, but I agreed to be interviewed on a documentary about science and religion. We did that. That's not what we're doing now.
What is one?
So this isn't... I don't know anything about Islam. I haven't read the Quran. So you're telling me you want to talk to me.
Okay.
I can't give you my opinions about Islam. I don't know anything about it. I'm not an Islamic scholar, nor read the Quran.
By rejecting the data which could not be fit into the old cliché thinking, and refusing his opponent the opportunity to reach out to his all-around defensive mind, the behavior of Dr. Shermer resembled the attitude of religious dogmatists and apologetics. Hiding behind irony and sarcasm was fear of public defeat in this debate.
If I give you some example about mathematics, you say this could be a pattern seeking.
Okay, you can give me something and I can go study it, but I don't. I mean, the number 19.
I'm not saying
I don't know.
Believe it. Take it as a premises. Could be wrong. Could be. I may be making up. But if it is true, wouldn't it create some interest in you to read it? This book, for example, the word 7 universes repeats 7 times. Interesting. The word. The word month occurs exactly 12 times. The word day,
but
how many times the word day?
Not just patternicity. You're just looking for the number to come up 12 times or 7 times or 40 times.
Well, isn't science, you look at things, you see some relationship, Fibonacci. How do you find Fibonacci?
But you could find that for anything. No, you could go through War and Peace and find the numbers appearing.
Okay, give me a book. Okay, here is for challenge.
But
no. Again, let me finish up.
What is the point of this?
Okay, the point of this...
You came to talk to me.
If the Quran has 12 times the word month appears, the word day appears how many times? Give me a number. The word day.
The word day.
Give me a number.
How many times do I think it appears in the
should
Quran?
appear.
I haven't any idea.
What is the word day associated in your mind with any number?
I don't know.
You don't have any association?
365
exactly,
by any chance?
Exactly. It repeats exactly 365. Just I give you a few examples. This was before discovery of 19. I'm not saying this shows that it's made by God, but I am saying this should be enough to check this book about its mathematical stuff. This book, I'm telling you, it's very interesting. Like the words... months and day, the repetition of them related to their astronomy.
I'm just telling you, we're all wasting our time, and I have to get back to work. I don't know anything about the Quran.
Okay, about 19, I would like to give you this book. I had given you, I sent you, you threw it away.
No, I think I still have it here somewhere.
Yeah, but this one, I have a summary of it here. Please look at it. It will take about maybe 5 minutes, Michael. And you will not be... It will not be a bad news for you. It will be the best news because Carl Sagan in his book The Contact envisioned if there is God, he would send a message encoded in numbers that we would be confused like pi, all the decimals.
I remember that.
Yeah, I think mathematics will be the best evidence. And you will look at it, how probable, how possible. It is a matter of judgment. Obviously, we can make up sentences. The number of words, letters could come up to a certain way. But after a certain point, if you look at it, it is impossible beyond humans to do that. Even prophecy there, incredible prophecy.
I just don't know. You got the wrong guy. I don't really know anything about this subject. So I can feel your passion. I'm not sure why you wanted me.
Because you are the skeptic debunker.
I'm the skeptic,
Here is,
right,
I'm challenging you for $1 million. I'm not going to get the money. I will donate back. You challenge. I said there is a great prophecy in the Quran. It's about 19. There is chapter 74.
Unwilling to acknowledge the slightest possibility of his imperfection, this atheist sphinx of modern-day science became more reluctant towards the discussion, until finally he began to openly dodge Deep's arguments, readdressing them towards Muslim scholars. He openly declared that in spite of the fact that he allowed this article in Islam to be published, he never actually read the Quran and knows nothing about it.
Okay, then I'll just say for the record, I don't know anything about Islam. I did not read the Quran. I've never read the Quran.
Okay.
I have no opinions about any of this.
But I mean, this entire Skeptic magazine was based around Islam and the Quran. I mean, the entire cover feature stories were based around Islam and the Quran. And you're the editor-in-chief, but you've never read the Quran?
That's right.
Okay.
But it is generalization, it is called. He does generalization. And for example, mythology section, for example, Quran doesn't have overall global description of flood.
I mean, the point of the skeptic thing is that everyone in America talks about Islam. Okay, there's a lot of myths about it. So the Islamic scholar we interviewed straightened out some of those myths. If anything, it makes Islam look better.
There was some
because
good
so
answers,
many Americans have such a simple view of Islam and the Quran, like it's this really evil, bad thing. And the 72 virgins, ha ha ha, right? So if anything, we made your religion look a lot better.
Well, yeah,
than most people think it is.
No, and actually, I was reading it. I was expecting it to be very, polemical, and it wasn't at all. Like, especially that. But I mean, there's still many other aspects of scientific miracles in the Quran, from my opinion, that are not addressed, and they're not addressed by secular academics in this country, and they're generally looked upon with suspicion. They're kind of looked upon as vague, misinterpreting nonsense. And that's one of the things we intend to do when talking about arguments for and against God's existence in Islam is to try to increase the public visibility of claims about scientific miracles in the Quran, as well as to Okay, so I'm going to end the interview here because I have to get back to work.
Okay.
And you have my permission to use the interview with you, but none of this. You can't use any of this because you could just make me look like an idiot. I've said right from the beginning, I don't know why you're asking me. I don't know what you're doing here. This is not what I do. I haven't read it. End of story.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. I mean, everything I said to you in the interview, that's fine. You can use that. I stand by everything I said. You asked my opinion. That's my opinion. If you ask me about 19, I don't know anything about 19. To me, it sounds like patternicity, but I could be wrong.
The renowned British science fiction author and futurist Arthur C. Clarke formulated the following 3 laws. When a distinguished but elderly scientist states that something is possible, he is almost certainly right. When he states that something is impossible, he is very probably wrong. The only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Later, in 1999, Clarke added another law. For every expert, there is an equal and opposite expert. In 2002, Michael Shermer expanded Clarke's laws by the following quote: "Any sufficiently advanced extraterrestrial life is indistinguishable from God."
I have witnessed a number of discussions about this numerical miracle in Quran in online forums and in blogs and whatnot. And I saw that people that reject it fall into a certain pattern. And it's always the case that I've witnessed. So what they do is they either rationalize things after the fact, they either take things at face value, or they either outsource their thought process. So whenever somebody rejects it, we see that it exposes one of these three things on them. They either take things at face value, they look at the side dressings and like who's accepting it, who's not, and they reject it based on that. Or they rationalize their disbelief after the fact that, yeah, they see that this is leading them to somewhere they don't want, and they make their decision that they're not going to go there, and they rationalize their rejection using logic. And the third thing is they outsource their thought process. They look at people that support this and people that don't support this, and if the people that don't support this are people that they trust, they outsource their thought process to them. They say, oh, this cannot be true because they're rejecting it, so I'll reject it as well. So these three things, after the fact rationalization, taking things at face value, and outsourcing your thought process. If you end up rejecting it, look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, am I falling into one of these three categories? If you are ignoring logic. And you'd better take a look at it again.